Tonight, lavish spending, high salaries, and no accountability at Memorial University.
Custom-made chocolates, limousines, it's outrageous.
A scathing Auditor General's report gives MUN a failing grade, digs deep into spending, and ignites a debate about the future of the university.
Ride sharing coexists with taxi services, and they both operate successfully.
The province is changing some rules to try to open the door to services like Uber and Lyft, but not everyone is on board.
There's a war going on in the St. John's neighborhood, a war against these. One man is catching 13 of these a day. That story coming up.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We begin tonight with a story about overspending, inefficiencies, a lack of oversight. Memorial University needs to change its financial strategy. That's according to a scathing report on MUN spending released today by the Auditor General. Here and Now's Mark Quinn has our top story.
The 80-page document raises some major concerns about how money is spent at Memorial University. The Auditor General found that MUN is spending much more on salaries when compared to similar government positions and other universities across Canada. Just how much? For 97% of the executive and management positions examined in the report, the AG found that MUN paid significantly higher total compensation. For 90% of management positions examined, MUN paid higher salaries than government. On average, Memorial's base salaries were higher than the average benchmark set by the national university sector. And here's a shocker. MUN's executive could be entitled to up to 95 paid leave days per year. That's 37% of their annual working days. The report zeroed in on a 4-year period from 2019 to 2022. For students wondering how tuition was spent, the Auditor General found this. Compared to other medium-sized universities, MUN had the highest administrative salaries per student at $2,369. That's $893 higher per student than the average. It all raises questions about who controls money at MUN, with the report pointing out that the president is responsible for almost 1/3 of the university's expenses that are not routinely reviewed by the Board of Regents. Those are the broad strokes, but several operating expenses were flagged, like $65,000 that was paid to a consultant at the Harlow campus who did not submit a final report, a report that was required under their contract. And the president's office spent $1,700 on custom-made chocolates that were given away as gifts. 7 travel expenses were concerning to the AG, 5 trips made by the president, plus another 2 for executives and senior management that may be considered excessive. Today at the House of Assembly, the province said it's reviewing the report and will work with the university to make necessary changes. The Auditor General is recommending the university evaluate its spending and its oversight across its entire operations. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
University leaders reacting to the report late this afternoon. MUN President Neil Bowes laid out a list of changes made as part of a broader policy renewal. More checks and balances, for example, when it comes to spending, and dramatically reducing the use of executive search firms to fill empty jobs.
Where we can see things that are not right, we will ensure that moving forward, we will operate within the policies of the university, ensure that we learn the lessons that have been raised from or the recommendations from the Auditor General. We're committed to improve things going forward.
And we'll have more on the AG's spending report a little later in the show. In other news, a teenage boy was killed in a head-on collision on the Trans-Canada Highway yesterday afternoon. It happened about 10 kilometers west of Hampton Junction. Police say conditions on the road were poor at the time because of heavy rain and high winds. The 19-year-old was driving alone when he collided with another vehicle. The 2 people in that vehicle were treated for non-life-threatening injuries. First responders from Deer Lake and Corner Brook temporarily closed the highway while crews attended to the scene. Well, the pool at the Paul Reynolds Community Center had an unwelcome visitor this morning when a driver backed into the building. Emergency crews responded and staff spent much of the morning cleaning up the broken glass just steps from the pool deck. The city says the pool will remain closed today and tomorrow, and staff hope to provide an update on its reopening as soon as they can. Well, Newfoundland and Labrador is one step closer to seeing ride-sharing services pull into the province. Provincial legislation is being changed, which means apps like Uber could soon be an option for drivers and commuters alike. Here now's Jessica Singer has this update.
The fog is starting to clear over the ride-sharing confusion. The province is changing existing legislation, which will finally allow companies like Uber and Lyft and their drivers to hit the road. It's another turn in a long, winding road. Earlier this month, the province said the legislation change wasn't necessary. Fast forward to this afternoon, government announced changes to its Highway Traffic Act, a piece of legislation Uber has said needs to be changed before getting off the ground.
In many, many, many cities and provinces and other jurisdictions across North America, ride sharing coexists with taxi services, and they both operate successfully. So now it's time for Newfoundland and Labrador to join the rest of the country.
No matter what part of the province, ride-booking companies will have to follow the same set of rules. This means no changes needed for municipal bylaws here in the city of St. John's. But municipalities will have the right to prevent ride-booking companies from coming to their communities if they'd like to do so. Mayor Danny Breen says having one set of rules is the best way forward.
I think this is a very good announcement for the city and for the province, and I also think that it's a proper way to regulate the ride-sharing industry.
So what's changing? Those looking to get a Class 4 driver's license will no longer have to write or complete a road test, and that's not just for ride-sharing. That applies to taxis too. Jiffy Cab's owner Chris Hollett says it's something he's asked the government to do for years to help eliminate barriers to getting more drivers on the road.
Well, it just seems very convenient, the timing of that announcement. It seems like they want people to join rideshare instead of coming into the taxi industry. I mean, like that's a concern that we had for years, and it's just the timing is convenient.
The province says it hopes to put forward these new changes to the House of Assembly in the coming days. Premier Furey says he hopes to pass this as fast as possible. Jessica Singer, CBC News, St. John's.
Good evening, Heather in for Ashley, and it is getting a bit duckish now in St. John's. The sun set at 5:59 just before the show started. 6 degrees with winds northeasterly, 20 kilometers per hour with gusts to 30 currently. And this morning on the Burgeo Highway, a different story completely. We had snow, and this picture comes to us courtesy of Joey Vokey, and he said he had to drive at about 30-40 kilometers per hour this morning on the highway here near Peter Stride's Pond on the Burgeo Highway there. Now, taking a look at the weather system affecting the province, we're going to see some of this drizzle that's currently affecting us, some light drizzle, some light rain. It's going to move off and taper off. So talking about the weather on the way, we're going to see that taper off in the overnight. We're also going to see some clearing skies into tomorrow, Wednesday, some sun and cloud, but we could see a shower or two as well. Speaking of showers, we'll talk about all that rain that we had over the weekend.
Members' language is unparliamentary, and I call upon the member for St. John's Centre to unequivocally withdraw both comments.
Thank you, Speaker. I will not retract those comments.
Well, that's the NDP leader getting sanctioned for using unparliamentary language. On Thursday, in the wake of a CBC Investigates story, he asked if the government was lying when it gave incorrect information about how many housing units it had built. The Speaker ruled that until Din withdraws his comments, he isn't allowed to speak in the House. Din says he knew this would likely happen when he made the comments.
People are living in tents because they don't want to be living in shelters, and people in shelters who are there long-term because they can't get housing. This has been a growing issue, so I don't know. I think at this point in time, if anything else, is just one way to call them out and call shame on them.
Well, the health minister says help is on the way for those without a family doctor. Starting next month, people without a primary care provider will have access to a virtual doctor. Here Now's Peter Cowan has been following this story and joins us now live. So, Peter, what more can you tell us about this?
Well, Carolyn, this service will be available to people who've signed up with Patient Connect, and they're waiting to be matched with doctors and nurse practitioners in primary care teams. And so until that happens, they'll be able to connect with a doctor virtually, either by a video link or by phone. This will essentially work like a virtual walk-in clinic. So you would get a different doctor each time, but it means they can help diagnose issues, renew prescriptions, things that otherwise patients might have to go to the emergency room for. The province is signing with a private company to provide the service, which until now have been available, but for a fee.
Regardless of where you're living in the province, you'll have access to this. So this RFP was put out as an additional source of primary care for individuals throughout the province without putting a strain on existing avenues of primary care.
Okay, Peter, so this will be welcome news for some patients, but what will it mean for emergency rooms that have been closed due to staffing shortages?
Yeah, this contract is supposed to help them as well by providing virtual services. So, for example, New West Valley has struggled without a doctor to keep the emergency room open. And so starting next month, if someone in that area is dealing with an emergency, the ER will now be accessible. You can come in and you'll see a doctor virtually, keeping the site open, which otherwise could have been closed.
They will have 24/7 virtual physician coverage, which should help keep that site open, provided we have a nurse practitioner for the site. That means that we rely less on physician coverage for the site because we have virtual physician with a nurse practitioner on the ground.
Now, the health minister said details like which private company is going to be providing the service and how much the province is going to be paying for it are still to come. And if you're wondering about the doctors that you'll be seeing, well, they might not actually physically be in the province, but the minister said they will have to be licensed here. Carolyn?
Thanks so much, Peter. That's Here Now's Peter Cowan reporting live. Well, this year, protests erupted over the country over curriculum related to sexual orientation and gender in schools. There were at least 3 protests in this province. But what's actually being taught in schools and why is it so controversial? Here Now's Daryl Roberts has been looking into it.
Protests and counter-protests, hundreds of people on either side, all over inclusive education. Some of the protesters don't want LGBTQ content in class. Others say they feel excluded from their child's education.
I can't speak for anybody else, but I could definitely say that the biggest concern is it seems like there's secrecy from parents.
In Newfoundland and Labrador, you can access the school curriculum online. LGBTQ content is also part of the district's inclusive education policy.
Instead of reading just stories that have a mommy and a daddy, they might do stories that have a bunch of different types of families. So that could be a family that has just a grandma, a family that has adoptive parents, a family that has 2 dads, a family that has 2 moms, a family that's a single mom. It's like, that's it. We're just acknowledging that different families exist.
Some people believe unfounded claims that schools are showing explicit material in K-6 classrooms.
That's wildly inaccurate. We are not teaching children about sex in any capacity. We are literally simply acknowledging that LGBTQ people exist.
Protesters also claim that schools are grooming kids to change their identity. Ailsa Craig says that idea is connected to old stereotypes.
It's inherently a homophobic and transphobic attack to say that it's grooming because of the ways that it connects information about gender and sexuality to sexual assault. These two things are not actually connected. There is nothing that connects them except for the homophobia and transphobia.
Even though not everyone agrees with including LGBTQ-related content in class, one of the people responsible for the district's inclusive schools policy says part of education is learning about things that people disagree on.
To, I guess, embody that well-rounded, again, citizen and individual, we need to provide education that really is showing and teaching young people and staffs that, these people exist and they always have. This is not anything new. And it's time for us to really embrace the diversity that we have.
The Department of Education refused multiple interview requests about the curriculum, but the department did provide samples of learning outcomes in schools. For example, in grade 9, students examined how family structures in Canada have shifted over the past 50 years. The department also said it's updating health curriculum for grades 4 through high school.
In the meantime, protests over what's happening in schools are continuing, and they don't seem to be ending anytime soon. Daryl Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, earlier today, the department's refusal to answer questions about this story led to this exchange in the House.
The minister declined an opportunity to speak to media and ask questions on the two-spirited LGBTQ IA plus curriculum. It's really important to have the minister as an ally and to be able to be vocal on these issues. So it does lead the question, does the Minister of Education support inclusive education in our school system or not?
The Honourable Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government of Newfoundland and Labrador is very interested and certainly supportive of continuing the work of inclusive spaces in our schools. We want to have safe spaces for everybody to have educational opportunities, to not limit anybody's potential, and to continue to grow the lives of our children here in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Steals the puck right back. Centers! They score! There was Owski in overtime! The Growlers complete the 3-game sweep!
Well, the Newfoundland Growlers held their own over the weekend, winning all 3 games against the visiting Reading Royals. The Growlers won easily on Friday and Saturday night, but needed a little overtime on Sunday afternoon to complete the sweep. Newfoundland hopes to continue its winning ways on Thursday when the South Carolina Stingrays come to the island for another 3-game series.
Some days I'm having a little bad days, and then when I come over here, it kind of makes it like one of the best days.
The latest addition to the skate park in Grand Falls, Windsor. We'll have that story coming up.
And it was a wet and windy weekend, warm too, well over 100 millimeters of rain in some places. We'll tell you where after this.
Well, a skate park in Central is busier than ever thanks to some recent upgrades. Beginners and pros alike are turning up to skate, scooter, and rollerblade. As Here and Now's Troy Turner reports, the town says it's money well spent.
They've added ramps, boxes, rails, and tracks earlier this fall. And ever since, young and old alike have been flocking to the park.
The usage has grown by 300%, and you know that the facility here, a perfect facility. The parents can stick around, sit in their cars, and watch their youth participate on the skateboard park.
It's an upgrade that came with a big price tag. The new features cost just under $500,000. While federal and provincial governments carry most of that cost, the town is paying for a third. And they see it as a worthwhile investment.
Council are very supportive in giving the people of Grand Falls, Windsor, any activity which they would like to participate in. And the skateboarding was one of them. And it's all part of our plan to ensure that our youth and our adults got something to participate in when they so desire.
Users agree. It's money well spent.
The additions are what made me come back to skating on this instead of in the street, because before there was nothing for people who were new. There was lots of stuff for people who were already sort of good, but there was nothing for people who didn't know how, and now it's pretty good because you can pick up on some of the smaller obstacles and easier stuff to pick up.
Some days I'm having a little bad days, and then when I come over here, it's kind of makes it like one of the best days.
A recent drop in temperatures is not changing the habits of those who use the park here on their skateboards and scooters, and they're telling me today that even when the snow comes, as long as there's a surface to ride on, they'll continue to use this facility. Troy Turner, CBC News, Grand Falls, Windsor.
Have a look at this. There were some special visitors in Aspen Cove on the northeast coast this week. Lorna Coles captured this moment, 3 caribou swimming onto shore.
Wow, there's a male and 2 females there, and they're struggling in the heavy seas, the rain, and the wind. Now, locals think they swam the 40 kilometers from Fogo Island.
My goodness, imagine. But the good news, Heather, is that the caribou seemed none the worse for the wear on that long journey, so that's a good thing.
Indeed it is. They look like such hardy little creatures. I didn't know they could swim.
I'm sure they're not the first to make that trek on the water.
Yeah,
and I still can't get over the snow that you showed us in Burgeo earlier. That was a lot of snow.
Yeah. Good dusting there for sure. I guess that's a reminder for us all to get our snow tires. But the weekend, it wasn't snow tires, it was rain, and quite a lot of it. Let's take a look at some of these numbers in St. Albans. 133.7 millimeters in the 60 hours up until 3:30 p.m. today. So just, this weekend and into today, just a lot of water. 129 in Bay d'Espoir, 89 for Burgeo, in the 80s for Lassie, and in the 70s for Port aux Basques, Cormac, and Springdale and Deer Lake. 65 millimeters for you folks, and down into the 50s for other areas of the province. Now, we do have a temperature record to tell you about from over the weekend as well, and it was in Port aux Basques. 14.9 was the new record yesterday, just a fraction of a degree warmer from the old record that was set back in 2016. Today in Port aux Basques, as you can see, very much cooler, about 7 degrees cooler than it was yesterday, 6-7 degrees anywhere here along the south-facing coast, along the island, a couple of degrees cooler pretty well elsewhere across the province. Taking a look at our current, today's highs, pretty well in the single digits, except for Cape Race, which was 12 today. But 5 to 9 degrees kind of otherwise. And in Labrador today, 1, 2, 3 cool temperatures up across the Big Land. Taking a look at our future tracker now, pretty quiet weather tonight and going into tonight for Labrador. We're going to see some cloud move out, some clearing. For the island, we're going to see some clearing as well. So if you did have any drizzle this evening, this afternoon, some of it will continue tonight, but we'll start to see it push away and push offshore as we head towards midnight. And then in the overnight, we'll see some continual clearing over the island as well by the time you wake up and get ready to go to work again tomorrow morning. Taking a closer look at our temperatures for tonight. So in St. John's, what we'll see is cloudy skies with some showers or some drizzle tonight. 5 degrees, winds from the north 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. And as we head through central Newfoundland, we'll see our rain ending and then a chance of showers persisting after that, with temperatures between 1-5 degrees. So starting to get cool now in the overnight for the south coast, places like Marystown tonight. We'll see some chance of showers for you guys, mainly cloudy, chance of showers. So you could still have a shower or two tonight at 4 degrees. For the rest of the island, pretty well, various amounts of clouds with your temperatures between 1 and 4 degrees, as cool as 2 for the west coast. Up into Labrador, we could see some showers in Cartwright at -2. A chilly night for you folks. -5 for Happy Valley, Goose Bay and Labrador West. So going to be a chilly night there. Winds lighter up to 15 kilometers per hour for you folks. Now, when we wake up tomorrow, we'll see some sun and cloud, especially in coastal areas of Labrador, possibly through central there as well. And as we go through the day tomorrow, heading towards lunchtime, we'll see some more cloud moving back over Labrador, but some clearing again for the island like we were talking about, and some cloud just moving over the island as we head towards midnight tomorrow. Taking a closer look now at tomorrow for St. John's and the Avalon, temperatures between 6 and 7 degrees. If you're anywhere along the south coast, you will see mainly sunny skies in Marystown. A little bit more cloud, though, in Placentia, and a little bit more cloud yet again as you head towards Cape Race. But in St. John's, we'll see some showers in the morning. Things will clear off for us by the afternoon, and a chance of showers in Bonavista as well. Heading towards central, again, we'll see some clearing, so we'll see more sun icons towards the west coast, more chance of showers as we head a little further east. So we've got a mix of sun and cloud here for Terra Nova. We could see a chance of showers. You'll possibly see some showers there in Gander as well. Temperatures still in the single digits from 6 to 9 degrees. As we head further west, again, a little warmer, 8-9 degrees for the west and southwest coasts. And as we move up to Labrador and the Northern Peninsula, we'll see more sun, still in the single digits, though. We could see some showers in Labrador City Wabash area as we get more cloud tomorrow, but not a bad day for the rest of Labrador. We'll have your long range later in the show.
Thanks, Heather. Lecowan Heights man is waging a war in his backyard. It requires traps, poison, as well as some thick gloves. On the Go host Anthony Germain met Todd Golding to hear about his daily struggle.
There's something of a rat war in this neighborhood in St. John's. Todd, how many of these have you had?
Well, the highest in one day was 13. I average about 8. Today, I guess since you guys showed up, I only got 2 last night. Oh, okay. So hopefully the numbers are coming down.
So you've had 8 per day for how long? Like, how long has this carnage been going on?
We purchased the house in May, and I'm going to say June or so I started seeing these issues. Now I have poison, I have snap traps, I have live cages here, and I'm getting them. As you can tell, I showed you the 2 that I got there last night.
Yeah, and that monster I was just holding.
Oh, well, that's one of the bigger ones that I've got. I got one yesterday. I figured it was 3 to 4 pounds, and I presume that one's about the same. It's just out of hand here. But one thing I'm not getting is any feedback from the city. I know that and it's on their website, that it's at the property owner, okay? But we need assistance here, okay? There's a green space out behind my house here that the grass is 3 feet tall in it. There's about 5 building blocks on that. Does the city maintain that, or does the houses behind me?
So you're doing your part. What would you like the city to actually do?
I'd like the city to come in and assess this and actually have a look at it. Maybe give us things to deal with the problem. Maybe give us some, I don't know, put a committee in place that helps us. For instance,
or maybe clean up the green space.
Clean up the green spaces would be nice. I am blessed. I don't have them in the home. I've gone through my attic. I've gone through everything. I keep an eye on it, okay? I got a cat in the house. But me and my partner, we don't live inside. I enjoy the outside. And this is where I want to be. Now I can't. The other night I was sitting on my top deck of my patio, had my fire pit going, my propane fire pit, and you know, it's about 10 feet off the ground. My deck is pretty high there. One walked up to my feet. It was about 2 feet away from me.
Pretty bold.
Yeah, and I had another one that I approached in the garden, stood up on his hind legs and sniffed me, like you would see a cat do or something. We need something put in place in this town, in this city, and this province to help with this. It's out of hand.
All right, all the best. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Anthony.
Efforts to boost the number of caribou are paying off. Watch the Grey Islands Caribou Revival, Sunday at 11:30 and Monday at 7.
Returning now to our top story, the Auditor General's scathing report released today about spending at Memorial University. Denise Hanrahan sat down with On the Go host Anthony Germain earlier this afternoon to talk about her findings.
What concerns you about how much vice presidents at Memorial University get paid?
Well, the challenge is the quantity of vice presidents is higher than the number at the other universities we compared to, and the compensation certainly compared to the province when you're looking at similar work. So that's the accountability, the know-how, the aspects of the job when they're compared. It's the same work, but upwards of double the pay. Mm-hmm.
How many vice presidents does MUN have?
7.
7. And I believe a number of them were named by the outgoing president. Would that be correct?
So the Board of Regents appoints permanently, but the president appoints interim or temporary.
Okay. Much of the report refers to the former president's activities, for lack of a better word. There's attention paid to Vian Timmins' authority over non-operating funds. $190 million. How much oversight was there of how the president uses or used any of that $190 million?
So our understanding in our audit is the $190 million, which is the non-operating funds, are not reviewed routinely by the Board of Regents. They are delegated to the president. It's the president's responsibility. We couldn't find any reporting or analysis on it. Matter of fact, when we even asked the vice presidents who was responsible, they couldn't tell us who was responsible for oversight of that $190 million, which is about a third of their budget of the whole university.
And I guess the one that's jumping out at everybody, how much did the president and MUN spend on what you describe as custom-made chocolates?
So over the scope of our audit, it was almost $23,000.
So that's over how many years?
3.75 years.
Okay.
And it was purchased by, I think it was 17 different executive and non-executive entities across the university. So it's a very common practice, it appears, to buy these chocolates.
But, every Christmas companies give out stuff. Is that unreasonable? Is this one of those ones that sounds worse than it is?
In my opinion, it's the public sector. And I don't think anybody anticipates their tax dollars are getting spent to buy Christmas presents.
Well, university leaders did react to the report this afternoon. Here's more of what President Neil Bowes said to reporters.
We will be looking very hard at the outcomes from the report, at the key recommendations, and we will bring changes in line to suit with what those recommendations find. We're totally, as I explained, we accept the findings of the report, and we will make changes that improve the way in which we operate.
What will you do about all those examples that we saw in this report where someone working here is making $100,000, $80,000, so much more than someone in a comparable position at the provincial public service? Will you do anything about that?
Our comparators are with the university sector because we are hiring. Our competitors are where our staff can go or where we're hiring from are equivalent universities across Canada.
new exhibit will explore the history of folk remedies in Newfoundland and Labrador, and the work features paintings made of the same stuff as those home remedies: dandelions, birch bark, and even cod.
My name is Lindsay Alcock. I'm the Interim Associate Dean of Libraries at Memorial University, and I'm also an artist. So someone once described me as a librarian by day, artist every other second. This was a sabbatical project, so I've been working on this for a year, and this is the final result. And the project was a visual art exhibit on natural remedies from Newfoundland and Labrador. What's interesting about this project is that I took stories about natural remedies from the folklore literature, so through the Folklore and Language Archives here and from the Centre for Newfoundland Studies. And I took those stories and looked at the ingredients, and I decided to use the actual ingredients in the remedies to make all of the inks and pigments and dyes with which I painted. Really, for the first part of my project, it was researching, it was reading these stories and deciding which ones I was going to use. Birch bark, there's one right here. So birch, if you take birch bark and sort of split it, you get that nice vellum-like layer. That was used to cover burns and frostbite. Another really interesting one is cod. I wanted to do something with cod because, well, cod liver oil, we're all familiar with that, but the story that I think most people wouldn't be familiar with is that a little small bone in the cod head was used to treat bladder and kidney stones. And the story is that you would take this small, round, bone-like structure from the cod head and fry it on a pan or put it in the oven till it charred, and then grind it into a powder and either stick your finger in it and suck on it or make tea. And this was supposed to help cure your bladder and kidney stones. I made pigment from dried cod skin and from cod bones that I charred, and also from a mussel shell, that nice ultramarine kind of magenta that's inside a mussel shell. And so I made pigment out of all that and made a cod. I have one piece of dogberries, and the story for this is so beautiful. So it was common for mothers to pass their infants through the branches of a dogberry tree, and this would ensure their future health and that they wouldn't get scurvy and tuberculosis, and I think rickets may have been the other one that's mentioned. So I wanted this piece to look like what the infant would have seen from within the branches of the tree. So you're right inside the tree, surrounded by the leaves and the berries with a little bit of light coming through. And that story really spoke to me. I really wanted to somehow bring that to life. To me, this project has brought me so much joy and so much inspiration and a deep connection with my environment and with my surroundings. And I hope that people feel that, and I hope that they're able to get some of that from this as well, and think about their own stories and their own histories and where they come from and this fantastic province that we live in.
Well, after a decade of steep decline, the population of critically endangered North Atlantic right whales appears to have leveled off. That's a key takeaway from some new data released today. But as Paul Withers reports, the whales are still under threat.
Every year, U.S. and Canadian scientists estimate the number of surviving right whales. Today, they released updated data with encouraging results. The 2021 estimate of 340 individuals has been recalculated upward to 365, primarily because of the number of calves born that year. The estimate for 2022, the most recent, is 356 animals.
Slowing down of the decline is sort of the first good news that we've had in a long time. So that is the significance. it really has to be tempered by the truth that it is still in decline, and there are a lot of sublethal injuries that will lead to death or loss of reproduction.
Philip Hamilton says 30 whales have been injured by entanglements this year, including one whale freed off Georgia carrying lobster gear from southwestern Nova Scotia.
It's one of the first times in a little while that I'm aware of that lobster gear has been implicated in Canadian waters. It has been in the past, but I think it points to the problem of managing this species because they move around a lot.
There have been 2 documented deaths this year, none in Canada, where sightings now trigger strict fishery closures, measures including shipping lane speed limits imposed after 21 right whales died in the Gulf of St. Lawrence in 2017 and 2019. The lack of deaths in Canadian waters since then suggests measures here are making a difference, says this Canadian scientist, who still remains cautious.
There's been studies that have shown we actually only ever find 1 in 3 dead animals. So there is a possibility that there are more out there. But the fact that we haven't found any is definitely a good sign.
Starting tomorrow, nearly 500 scientists from around the world will gather here in person and virtually to discuss the whale's future at a 2-day meeting of the North Atlantic Right Whale Consortium. Paul Withers, CBC News, Halifax.
Municipalities from coast to coast, including in St. John's, are being told to be more ambitious and ask Ottawa for more funding to help with the housing crisis. It's a national story, but also one that we're hearing right here at home. The CBC's Maria von Stackelberg has more.
Canada's Housing Minister Sean Fraser with a message for municipalities. If you want federal money to help you build more homes, get ambitious or get left behind.
We are looking for the best of the best. We are looking for the most ambitious applications.
Ottawa has received some 540 applications, but Fraser is suggesting cities alter their proposals to increase their chances of scoring the funds. He says municipalities should offer up their own land for development, speed up building permits, and loosen restrictions on the parking and land they require for housing.
If there's a message for communities that are partway through the process today, if you see your neighbor stepping up their ambition and getting a successful agreement with the federal government, know that that's who you're competing against.
Ottawa also wants cities to change zoning bylaws, so land designated for a single house can be used for multiple units. That's something Mississauga, Ontario recently voted to do.
I have no direction from my residents as to whether or not I should be voting in favor of fourplexes as of right.
But some councillors who voted against that worry in the rush to rezone and access the money, they haven't studied the impact on public services.
For the federal government to impose its housing standards on municipalities across this country and then just dangle a little bit of funding in front of us to get us to significantly overhaul our zoning bylaws in our cities, I think is very disingenuous by the federal government.
Other cities have a plan, but think Ottawa needs to be more flexible with its demands.
When the minister asked for 4 units per property, we just don't see that fits for Charlottetown because one method or one idea is not applicable to all. So as an historic city, we have to keep that historic look.
I don't want to see the historic buildings in Charlottetown knocked over for small apartments, of course.
The federal government has reached funding deals with Halifax and several Ontario cities, including Hamilton, London, Vaughan, and Brampton. And in the coming few weeks, Ottawa plans to look at the applications from smaller municipalities and rural communities. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
Well, the Canadian Foreign Affairs Minister is in the United Arab Emirates today to discuss the war. One issue is what happens if the situation in Lebanon deteriorates. Melanie Joly was asked what will happen to at least 16,000 Canadians living there and whether Canada will pay for them to get out.
First and foremost, my message to Canadians in Lebanon is first, you need to come home. This is time to leave. And I've been saying that for many days. Meanwhile, there is work that is being done by Global Affairs Canada, by by also the Canadian Armed Forces. I've been in contact with my counterpart from Cyprus this morning, but my message is the same. There are still commercial options available. Canadians should get out.
The last planned Canadian evacuation flight left Israel today. Canada has flown out about 1,600 Canadian citizens, permanent residents, and others in the last 10 days. Jolie has been working to get Canadians out of Gaza as well. Okay, so time for a look at the long-range forecast. A lot of wind, though, over the past couple of days, and the trees have really taken a beating with all the leaves.
All the beautiful red and orange and yellow leaves are now a pile of mush on the ground.
And it was a good reminder for me the other day to be careful, like when you're walking and when you're driving, because it gets slippery if you hit them the wrong way, the leaves.
They're so slippery. Yeah. So another weather hazard to look out for. But over the next day or so, tomorrow we should see a bit of reprieve from the rain that we have been experiencing. The rest of the week, it's a bit of a mixed bag. So let's take a look.
All right.
All right, so as we go into Wednesday, we'll finally see some clear skies across the island, but that's not going to last forever. We see this band here of precipitation that's going to clip past the northern peninsula. It could bring some showers here to the northern peninsula right here, and then we have some more on the way that could affect central and western Newfoundland. As you see, it will sweep here across the island Wednesday evening. And taking a closer look at Wednesday now, what we'll see here is basically for the south coast of the island looking like a pretty good day come Wednesday. 11, 12 degrees, a mix of sun and cloud, and that's about our seasonal temperature this time of year, just possibly a touch warmer. Through the west coast and into central, we could see a chance of showers, 10, 11 degrees as well, some sun and cloud for St. John's, St. Anthony. On the northern peninsula, you're down into the single digits. Could also see some showers. But as we look at the big land on the coast here for the Straits, Cartwright, Nain, mix of sun and cloud, nice day for you. Still in the single digits, as cool as 4 in Nain. Some clouds for Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and clouds for Labrador City, Wabush area as well. Going into Thursday, we'll see some showers possibly sweep across the island here. It looks like a band may go through central Labrador as well. And it's not going to be really a great day for the province. We see a lot of those gray clouds returning after this weekend. Temperatures similar to what they are on Thursday, 11, 13 for the south coast. Chance of showers for you folks. 12 from St. John's into Grand Falls, Windsor. So, not a bad day for the eastern half of the island. Cooler, though, on the west coast and through the northern peninsula and the Straits, and of course here along coastal Labrador, where we could see a chance of rain or we could see a chance of snow. Taking a look at our 5-day now, a lot of gray clouds and showery icons there with us. Wednesday looking like our good day, and our temperatures for the most part into the double digits except for tomorrow. As we move on through central Newfoundland, more gray rain clouds in the forecast. Tuesday, a good day for central and western Newfoundland. A chance of showers midweek as we head to Friday, and some showers looking like they're in store for Saturday. Temperatures hovering around the double digit mark there. Could be a degree or 2 on either side. For eastern Labrador, looking like Tuesday, Wednesday are your dry days with temperatures 5, 10 degrees. Single digits, though, for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, where on Saturday you could see snow or you could see rain. For Wednesday, it's, up and down. You could see some snow and rain, clouds, snow and rain, clouds, and then possibly some snow for you folks on Saturday. Now, taking a look at our weather picture.
Oh, beautiful.
Isn't it just pretty?
Yes.
Beautiful fall foliage. And this comes to us from Frank Gale. And if you have a photo, here's where you send them, nlphotos@cbc.ca. We always love to see your photos.
Oh, for sure. I love that with the yellow in the background and the red in the foreground. Just great shot. The green. Thank you. Well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us.
Good night.